In the summer of 2009, a film with no recognizable stars opened on a $35 million budget and made $467 million worldwide. The studio had tried to replace the cast with actual celebrities. The director had bet his own salary that they were wrong. He was right, and the check he eventually cashed was somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 million. What happened between those two moments is a case study in how Hollywood takes a joke and turns it into a machine. The script that became The Hangover started with a real incident. A producer named Trip Vincent went missing from his own Las Vegas bachelor party, blacked out, and woke up in a strip club facing a bill he could not explain or pay. His friend Chris Bender, a film executive, heard the story and recognized something in it. He connected Bender with two writers, John Lucas and Scott Moore, who built a screenplay around the premise. 4 men go to Las Vegas for a bachelor party. 3 wake up with no memory of the night before and a missing groom. Lucas and Moore sold that script to Warner Brothers for over $2 million. Todd Phillips was already at Warner Brothers under a production deal when the script arrived. He read it, wanted it, and began pushing the studio to greenlight it. The studio agreed, but with a condition. Jeff Robinoff, the head of Warner Brothers Pictures, set a budget ceiling of $35 million and demanded that the film have established star power to justify the R rating. R-rated comedies needed names to sell tickets. That was the rule. The studio went after Jake Gyllenhaal and Jonah Hill. Neither was available. Phillips had a different idea. He wanted Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms, Zach Galifianakis, and Justin Bartha. Cooper had supporting roles in a few films and was known primarily from a Ben Stiller movie. Helms was on The Office and The Daily Show. Galifianakis had a cult following from stand-up, but no real film presence. Bartha had appeared in the National Treasure franchise. Together, according to a Deadline report at the time, their combined salaries were less than the perk package a studio would typically give to a single A-list star. The studio was not convinced, so Phillips made an unusual move. He wagered his own directing fee against the budget. By giving up his salary, he allowed the film to stay within the $35 million ceiling Robinoff had set. In exchange, Phillips became an equity investor in the production. That decision, made under pressure, became one of the most profitable gambles in comedy film history. Phillips and a writer named Jeremy Garelick then rewrote the Lucas and Moore script. The original draft had no tiger, no baby, and no Mike Tyson. Phillips added all 3. The tiger in the bathroom, the infant in the closet, the former heavyweight champion appearing in his own home to retrieve his stolen animal. None of that was in the version that sold for $2 million. The rewrites transformed a story about consequence and confusion into something with escalating visual chaos, the kind of comedy that does not depend on familiarity with any particular actor to land. Filming took 15 days in Nevada. During those 15 days, Cooper, Helms, and Galifianakis formed a real working friendship that translated directly onto screen. The chemistry between them was not manufactured in casting sessions or rehearsals. It developed on location, under time pressure, between people who did not yet know what they were making. The Hangover opened on June 5, 2009. It went to number 1 at the domestic box office in its opening weekend, a position it held for 2 consecutive weeks. It became the highest-grossing R-rated comedy in American box office history at that point. Phillips, who had given up his salary to make it, made $60 million. Warner Brothers, which had tried to replace the cast with bigger names, now owned the highest-grossing R-rated comedy ever made. The studio moved immediately to secure a sequel. Here is where the story shifts from a creative risk into a franchise question. The Hangover Part 2 opened in 2011 with an $80 million budget, more than double the original. It was set in Bangkok. Stu was getting married this time instead of Doug. The bride's younger brother was missing instead of the groom. A monkey replaced the baby. A face tattoo replaced the missing tooth. The structure was identical, scene for scene, in a way critics documented in precise detail. NPR called it a remake in a sequel's clothing. The River City's reader wrote that substituting Bangkok for Vegas, a monkey for an infant, and a Mike Tyson tattoo for a missing tooth made the film a carbon copy of its predecessor. Phillips defended it. He told Empire magazine that every joke was completely different, that only the wake-up and blackout structure remained. The film made $586 million worldwide, more than the original. That number is the clearest statement about what happened to The Hangover as a creative property. The first film succeeded because the audience did not know what was coming next. The second film succeeded despite the audience knowing exactly what was coming next. The studio understood one of those facts and acted on it. The formula of mystery, chaos, and revelation had been extracted from the specific context that made it work and applied to a new location with new props. It made more money. That outcome confirmed the formula, not the creative instinct behind it. The Hangover Part 3 arrived in 2013 with a $103 million budget. Phillips had promised a different kind of film, and he delivered one. There was no blackout, no amnesia, no mystery structure. The audience, which had come back twice for exactly that structure, did not respond. The third film made $362 million. It was profitable, but it was a significant drop from the previous two. Phillips closed the trilogy and moved on. His next major project was Joker, released in 2019, which made $1 billion and won him a Palme d'Or at Cannes. That film has almost nothing in common with The Hangover except the director. What The Hangover actually produced was a detailed example of how Hollywood identifies a formula, extracts it from the conditions that made it function, and applies it until the returns diminish. The original film worked because it was built around surprise and because the cast had no established expectations attached to them. The studio that tried to prevent both of those things from being true was the same studio that then replicated the film's structure without either element and made more money doing it. The lesson the industry took from The Hangover was not about risk or chemistry or the value of untested actors. It was about the wake-up and the blackout. Those were portable. Everything else, it turned out, was optional. And that may be the strangest part of all. One of the biggest comedy hits of its era was built on a series of decisions Hollywood never wanted to make in the first place. If that kind of industry mechanics interests you, subscribe. There is a great deal more of it to break down.